All right, so you want to catch bigger bass. Well, let me help you out with that. First of all, there's no foolproof formula, but you can really put the odds in your favor with the following tips. The first one is to go to a lake that has big bass in it. I mean, duh, that sounds really obvious. Just bear with me, guys. If you're in a lake that has a lot of little fish, your odds aren't really there to catch the one or two big ones that are in there. If you go to a lake that's got a healthy population and is known for a lot of larger fish, there's more there, and your odds are up just because there's a larger population of larger fish. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's go to the less obvious tips here. So one of the things that's, if you really want to catch a good lunker of a lifetime, is early spring. That early pre-spawn period is a really good time to catch a big fish. This is when the fish are pretty much the biggest they're going to be for the entire year, because they've got eggs in them, the girls do, and even the males, they're ready to go. I'm talking early. I'm talking when the water temperature is in the upper 40s, lower 50s. What happens is the bigger fish, they spawn first, and they spawn a little bit deeper than the rest of the pack. So if you're used to, say you're in the northern climate, most of the fish spawn in May, you're looking into March, early April, right around there is when you're going to see the bigger fish come up and spawn in a little bit deeper. Instead of in that 3-foot, 4-foot zone, they're going to be out in 6 to 10 foot. So look for them there. Don't be surprised it's 52, 53 degrees out and there's bass spawning. It happens. And they're generally bigger. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, during this pre-spawn period, the majority of the population is in 10 foot or less. So you have a high concentration of all the bass, and if you're in a lake that's known for big bass, you're just up on your percentages right there. But it doesn't have to be just pre-spawn. You can catch them during the spawn. Great time to sight fish, and sometimes there's some big ones up there shallow. Every once in a while you'll see them. I've caught males, 4 to 5 pounds, spawning in 3-4 feet of water during the main spawn when all the rest of the bass. So not all the big bass spawn early, and not all the big bass spawn deep. Just kind of keep that in mind. They don't, follow the rules all the time. So every once in a while during the spawn, you can find some big ones up shallow spawning. And then the rest of the year, if you don't catch that window, that's fine. There's other opportunities for you. For example, watch for those fronts when they come through. When a front comes through, it gets the activity level up, the fish start get on the feed bag going, and you can catch a lot of fish. It's fun. I mean, even if you're not catching big ones, you can catch a lot of fish. But the odds of catching bigger ones go up. They feed during that time. So it might be a little bit windy out, rainy, it's cooler. It's for the humans, it's not as fun to be out in the water. As long as the wind isn't too bad, don't get out there when it's whitecapping, guys, and safety becomes an issue. But if it's just windy and lots of rain, and after a front comes through, that's a really good time to load the boat and catch some big fish. The opposite of that is when you've got a good stretch of stable weather. It's the same temperature, there's not any big winds coming through, the barometric pressure kind of stays right the same. You get days on end of that, and that sets up for some really good fishing for days, several days in a row. Like when a front comes through, you can get several hours of good fishing, but when you have long stretches of stable weather, that's several days of good fishing. And those fish will get up and they're active. They're not hunkered down after a front comes through, during the post-front conditions. There just hasn't been a lot of changes going on in their environment. So they're roaming around actively feeding. So those longer stretches of stable weather can be a really good opportunity to get out there and catch some big fish. Now, what else can you do to put the odds in your favor? Well, one of them is to go early and stay late. Okay? You gotta have time on the water in order to put the odds in your favor. And what I mean by that is you can look at these different apps out there, fishing apps or charts that talk about salooner times and when, this is the peak feeding time during the day and whatnot. And I don't really follow that, especially when I'm looking for larger fish, because they don't really follow those salooner times. Okay, they feed when they're hungry, when the opportunity presents itself, and that's when they're going to bite. So it might not be during a window of one of those prime feeding times. You don't know when that's going to happen though. So if you're on the water from dusk to dawn, or the other way around, dawn to dusk, you're just gonna be there when the bite kicks on. You can't catch fish when you're not on the water when the bite kicks on. So the longer you stay on the water, the more opportunities you're gonna have, the more you're gonna be there when the windows of opportunity exist, and the more chances you're gonna have to catch a larger fish. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might be going a long time, a couple of hours and not getting too many bites. Don't get discouraged because that bite can happen at any time and it might be a big one. So just perseverance is a key to catching larger fish. Another one is to fish a little bit deeper than the fish you're catching. So if you are catching fish, and say they're, good ones, 2-3 pounders, things like that, you're doing well, back off a little bit and go a little bit deeper. Let's just say you're catching those fish in 0 to 5 feet of water, backing off to 5 to 10 foot. You might start getting bigger fish. Okay, I had a tournament one time. It was towards the end of the spawn. There were still bass that were bedding, and there were still some good ones up shallow. And I was up there too. I was catching some fish off of them. I was getting a limit, but they weren't anything big. And while I was sitting there re-rigging, I looked down right next to the boat, and down a little hole in the weeds right down below me, I saw a bigger fish sitting right down there. And I picked up a tube and just dropped it down between the weeds, and he just took it. And I was like, oh, wow, that was easy. Caught him, and it was a 4-pounder. And from that one fish, I backed off. I was standing in about 8 feet of water. So I backed the boat out to about 15 foot of water and cast up to that 5 to 12 foot water zone, and I started hitting bigger fish. I ended up winning that tournament by doing that. And the rule of thumb there, the lesson learned was that, yeah, you're catching fish up shallow, but you're standing on top of the bigger fish. So anytime you want to catch bigger fish, if you're catching a bunch of good sized ones, just back off and go deeper and see if you can't catch some bigger ones. Another thing is to fish near deep water. So during the summer months, for example, don't go to the backs of coves. You might catch a lot of fish back there, but if you find a good weed bed that's closer to deeper water, that might be a really good area to target, or a point, or a row of docks that are near deeper water, or a creek channel. Something where it's deep waters nearby, that's where the big bass tend to hang out and be by. So kind of up your chances by doing those things. Now, as far as lures are concerned, there's a whole big bait, big bass theory that kind of goes out there, and yeah, you can, that sometimes works, but really it's a couple of tried and true things. So first of all, it's the jig. Guys, it's the jig. And if you're kind of thinking it might be other baits, it's the jig. I mean, the jig is a tried and true big bass catcher. A jig with a good sized trailer on it, like a rage craw on it, a 3/8 ounce to a 1/2 ounce jig. That's a big bulky bait, and it falls nice and slow through the water column, and you can throw that into the areas where the bass are going to be. A lot of times those big bass like to bury up in the thickest cover and the thickest weeds, or back in the docks, areas that when you catch them, then once you hook them, they're going to go hog wild crazy and wrap that line around something and it can break off. So you've got to go in after them, hit them hard with that jig, and keep their head pointed at you, and just reel. Don't give them a chance. If you give them a slack line, that's when they can wrap around things. But that jig is going to be able to get in there without getting hung up. So it's really good for flipping and pitching into those weeds and thick cover. And you can also drag it along deeper shorelines and deeper, the deeper, like 45 degree to even a bluff walls, or humps, ridges, rock piles. You can drag it up and over there, or hop it up and around. Give it different actions and different presentations, and that can be in 20 to 30 foot water. It could be deeper, especially during the summertime. The jig is really, really versatile, and you can fish it a variety of different ways at a variety of different depths, and big bass like them. So make sure you got a jig ready to go. Another bait that works really well is an oversized spinnerbait. I like throwing 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits. I throw them year round, usually with Indiana blades on them, but you can throw them with Colorado too. I don't use willow leaf on them because on a 3/4 ounce, it doesn't work as well, just in my opinion. But I like a dual Indiana blade or a single Colorado blade spinnerbait. And you can slow roll that along all the stuff I just told you about in deep water, or you can burn it back just under the surface. I like bringing it back at a fast enough speed where I can see it just before it dips out of sight. So whatever depth that is, depending on the water clarity, that's what I want to fish it at. And I bring it back at a pretty clipping speed. And again, around all the weed lines, look for those cuts and those points in the weeds, because those areas tend to be ambush points for larger bass. Along docks and the outside edges of docks, points, humps, ridges, things that've got stump fields on them or shell beds. Those are the things that attract those larger bass, and that's where I bring that spinnerbait through. And then if you want to go strictly like less than 10 foot of water, you got an abundance amount of cover and structure. It's hard to beat a wacky rig Senko. They'll catch all kinds of bass of all kinds of sizes, but you can catch some really good ones too. Here's a picture of me. This is a 6-pound smallie that I caught, 95 degrees out, hot, and it was in shallow water. But he was on a wacky rig, right on a weed line, and that's, you can catch them. They're there. Even when it's super hot out in August or what have you, they're still there. So a wacky rig can catch all sizes of bass, and don't think it's just a small bass catcher. You can catch big ones too. Again, make sure you're near deeper water or near current or something close by like that where the bass can get to. That seems to be areas where the large bass hang out. So hope that helps. For more tips and tricks like this, visit bassresource.com.